Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 611 of Full of Sith. It's me, Bryan Young, host of the show, and with me as ever, your other host of the show, the redoubtable, the traveled Holly Fry.
I suppose I'm traveled.
Well, you got back from Morocco and
Yeah.
and Disney World.
Yeah, I did a really dumb thing. Don't be like me, kids. But also I didn't have a choice. Because we got back from Morocco late Saturday night after like a 26-hour day of travel, and we didn't sleep the night before because our car had to leave Casablanca at 2 in the morning. Um, and
Did you
then
have the
life
proper exit visas?
just barely. Um, and then and then we Life Day was on Monday. So I flew to Disney World Monday morning and then spent Life Day there, and I flew home Tuesday morning and worked Tuesday. So those were my last two trips of the year. Knock wood. That's me knocking. It's not really wood. And I'm home until mid-January, which is pretty exciting because I have been traveling pretty much every week since the beginning of August. So I'm quite excited to be home for a spell.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, it better than to be trapped in Casablanca. Um,
I will say, I loved Morocco.
uh-huh.
Casablanca, not that thrilling a city. We didn't spend a lot of time there, but also like compared to other places we were and other cities we were, that was my least favorite.
I'm wondering, so like this is not Star Wars related, but just like Brian being a movie nerd related. Did they have like
None of that movie was filmed in
well, I
Casablanca,
know that.
but
I
there
know
is
that
a little place called Rick's Cafe.
that was my question, like knowing that it was filmed almost entirely on the Warner Brothers lot. Um did and but knowing how much it means to like I mean, it is a an American classic, but also has a reputation around the world.
Yeah,
Are there tourist
they
traps?
definitely trade on the tourism of it. And yeah, there is a Rick's Cafe. We did not go. But the rest of Morocco, quite amazing.
Yeah. No, when I
Uh,
went to Warner Brothers and I did a tour of the Warner lot, there's only one facade of the back lot that exists still where they shot some of the exteriors from Casablanca, and it's where La Belle Aurore was.
yeah.
And it's sort of the exteriors there, and sort of as a nod to Casablanca when they redress that place. Usually they have some reference to Casablanca or some of the actors, and when I had gone, it was like Ingrid's coffee shop or something like that as a
Yeah.
nod to Ingrid Bergman. Um, and it's interesting, like you can see it, like it's like, oh wow, that's definitely La Belle
Right.
Aurore. That's definitely the coffee shop or the bar in Paris where they had their love story.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that movie was entirely shot on the back lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I one of our people had said they shot some like exterior establishing shots might have been shot in North Africa, but nothing.
I think those were all B-roll, to be honest, and most of them were like
Yeah.
most of the establishing shots were matte paintings, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did stop at there's like a movie studio in Morocco. Let me see if I can find a picture of it so I can remember the name of it. And we stopped in there. You can stop in there. They have a little hotel attached, and we walked in and got a drink there. We had a cocktail and hung out. It was one of the few places you can get a cocktail in Morocco. Because Morocco is 95% Muslim and alcohol is not part of that life. So it was a little bit we did not get a lot of drinking done. Which is fine. Boy, I'm gonna be looking for a minute for this. I think I have a lot of pictures. Um,
Um, But no, that was just my question about Casablanca. I think it's interesting just to tie Casablanca to Star Wars while you're looking for your pictures. Casablanca definitely has had a an influence on Star Wars over the years. There's
Oh,
definitely
yes.
moments of Casablanca and themes of from Casablanca that have made their way into Star Wars, especially those themes of resistance and living under the thumb of a regime. Rick's Cafe certainly had moments in sort of all the bars in Star Wars sort of have moments in them that come directly from Casablanca and Rick's Cafe. It's actually pretty astounding actually how much of film history sort of flows through Casablanca.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies, if you haven't seen it, you really should. Not I'm not saying like you have to watch this and wagging a finger at you like you're a bad person if you haven't seen it yet, but if you just want to sort of unlock a lot of modern understanding of cinema and how people tell stories and a lot of Star Wars, Casablanca is sort of one of those foundational building blocks of
Yeah.
storytelling and storytelling about resistance, and storytelling about those heroes with the heart of gold that you're not sure where they're going to land and then eventually they land on the right side.
Yeah.
That really established that archetype in Hollywood in a way that was really impactful for a lot of people, including George Lucas.
Yeah. The movie studio I was trying to think of was Atlas Studios, which stuff from like Gladiator and Lawrence of Arabia and Kingdom of Heaven and some Game of Thrones and Kundun and The Mummy Returns were filmed there in addition to some others. And it's a cool space. It's a neat little, they're expanding a bunch right now, so there's a bunch of construction going on there at the studios. Because more and more filmmakers have expressed interest and more studios have talked to the studio about, making space there. So it was like an unexpected stop where everybody kind of had to go to the bathroom because we were in a tour bus for a lot of it because we went all over the country, and our guide was like, we could probably stop at Atlas Studios, and she's kind of a famous guide there. So, like, when Huda shows up, they just open out all the doors and throw out the red carpet and are like, yeah, as long as people buy drinks, you can stay here as long as she likes. So, it was great. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, no. So this being full of Sith, so we're going to do a couple of things on the show today.
Yes.
Holly's going to give us a report about Life Day at Disney World because they've pulled out the stops more this year probably than ever, would you say?
100%.
And then after Holly talks to us about Life Day, this being Thanksgiving week here in the United States, we're just going to talk about things in Star Wars we're grateful for after Holly's Life Day report. So there you
Yeah,
go.
the Life Day report won't be crazy. So, there is one thing I want to make super clear because the big thing and the reason I went down for Life Day was because, they had announced that Chewbacca would be appearing in his Life Day robe, which was pretty exciting to me. I love a Wookiee in drag, so I'm there for it. But that isn't really, I mean, it is his Life Day robe, but it was purely coincidence that they had um the ticketed event called Jollywood Nights in Disney's Hollywood Studios on Life Day. It may or may not have been coincidence, but that's like a separate event, and it's for Jollywood Nights that he comes out in his Life Day robe. So that runs throughout the Christmas season. So you don't have to hit it on Life Day. And if you are going at some point in between now and the end of Christmas season, and there are still Jollywood Nights tickets available, you can buy those and you will have your chance to see Chewbacca in his robe and get your picture taken with him. Just FYI, it wasn't a one day deal. Um, so yeah, like I said, I flew down that morning. I have gotten very lucky. I have to give a shout out to Coronado Springs. one of the hotels I stay in a lot is there in the tower, like the central tower. And three times in the recent past, when I have flown down early in the day, my room has been ready super early in the day, like at 10:30 in the morning, and I've been able to check in early, which is amazing. Almost unheard of usually on Disney property, but I've been getting very lucky there. Anyway, so shout out to the housekeeping team turning those rooms over really fast. So yeah, I got there. My room was actually ready so I could dump my stuff, change into my ridiculous velvet Life Day robe, and run out the door. And I was on Batu during the day, and then just stayed for the party at night. And so, um, during the day, I will say this. Life Day itself, other than dropping new merch, they were not doing a lot on Batu during the day. That was not part of the holiday party that they do in Hollywood Studios. So, I mean, I was just kind of kicking around. There were some other people in red celebrating Life Day, and people would say Happy Life Day to each other, but there wasn't a lot going on Batu um that was specific to the holiday.
Yeah.
But then in the evening, so that's the thing. Chewbacca is not out during the day. I mean, he is, but without his robe on, he's doing his regular park appearances. And then he doesn't come out during the holiday party until 7:30. Um, you can get in line for him ahead of that. And I will say, I kind of recommend it if people are going and they want to get pictures with him because the line does get very, very long very quickly. We kind of booked it right over there when I had met up with the people that were coming for the party. I spent the early part of the day with a friend that had taken the day off, and he and I ran around. And then he tapped out, and as my other friends were getting there for the party, and we all literally just ran over and got in line for Chewbacca. So we waited like an hour or so. I think it was probably 6:30 when we got over there, and we waited an hour and some change. But we were like fifth in line or something, so it went very fast once he arrived. But the line was long after that, so I think Chewbacca stays busy. But it was cool, and they had him out there. He has a an orb. His orb is very large. We had been discussing like, is this weirdly large, or are we misremembering things and we're all pulling up pictures of the holiday special on our phones? No, it's a big one. It's an unusually large orb. But it's cool. And I will say this, because it's an in-person event, they kind of plussed up his robe a little bit. So it's not just the plain
Yeah.
red dress with super long dangly sleeves that he wears in the holiday special. It is kind of that, but the sleeves have been pleated up in this really beautiful way, and they have some really beautiful red on red embroidery around the bottom part of it, and it was quite pretty. It was like a nice way to make it look a little more elegant.
I can't imagine Disney going like, "Hey, we've got some scrap red cloth laying around. Just wrap it around our normal costume."
Yeah, no, they
Uh,
um they definitely made him a Life Day robe. It's like lined. You could see the lining was this beautiful silky lining. It was quite pretty. I was very pleased. I thought that was like pitch perfect. It didn't feel like they had veered too far away from the original, but it did make it a little more special for in-person stuff because, the one on the holiday special is pretty basic. And I think he would have just looked like he had shown up in jammies if they went that route. Um, so that was great. And Chewbacca seemed very excited to greet everybody in his Life Day robe and took a lot of great pictures with people. We had a large-ish group, not massive, but it was like five, seven of it. I don't know how many people. There were some people. But they let us do like group shots and then individual pictures, and they were very cool and really, really lovely. So we had a wonderful time. And after that, we just kind of kicked around the party, which has a lot of stuff going on that isn't normally part of what's going on in Hollywood studios. Like they have different dance parties set up around, etc. And because it was Life Day, I imagine this is not how all of them are, but there were just a lot of people that were there in their Life Day finery, even though you'd see them like over at like the Pixar dance party or over kind of near Rock and Roller Coaster. They had like the three caballeros doing a dance party, and you would just see people in Life Day robes, which was kind of great. So, I ate a Ronto wrap. I drank my Surly Sarlacc. All was well in the world. Life Day.
It's funny, um, the Life Day robe thing was the producers of the holiday special solving a problem of like, well, we need a whole bunch of Wookiees, and Wookiees are expensive. How can we make this cheaper? And the red robes were their response to like, well, if we just put if we put pants on the Wookiee, essentially, um,
Yeah.
this makes it cheaper. We can just make the hands and the masks, and that's it. And then we can just throw red fabric on them.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like they've gone all out to make Chewie a really elaborate one, and now it's like, well, he's only out at special times because now the robe is special.
Yeah. I love it.
Um,
Huh.
but it's interesting how much at least the parks um have embraced the holiday special in a way that like, the shows and the animation have embraced it in very oblique ways with little Easter eggs and references, and the books have certainly like embraced it where they've name dropped Life Day aspects of the holiday special, whether it's Akmina or the why am I missing the name of
Gormanda,
yeah,
Mermea.
Gormanda. Yeah, like Gormanda is canon now, and um like so many aspects of it, whether it's Chewie's family, the names of his family, like all of these aspects of it are deeply embedded in the canon now.
Right. And I mean,
Um,
we got the acrobats in Skeleton Crew.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's amazing how this part of the canon that's literally only legitimately aired once
Yeah.
on live TV at a time when recordings were difficult.
Yeah. Few and far between.
Um, 1978, like recording something off broadcast TV at home was not a normal thing.
You had to be like a bleeding edge tech adopting person to have anything that could do it.
That the bootlegs of this have become so legendary and widespread that I mean, there are very few aspects of the holiday special that aren't deeply embedded in the canon in some way now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you went to a Disney park and you met Chewbacca in his Life Day robes with his Life Day like orb and got to hang out with him
And
and
we
take
walked
pictures.
off into the stars together. It was amazing.
And you know, it's just interesting to see this project that George Lucas had publicly commented that he wished he could like destroy every copy with a hammer.
Right. Just
Uh
completely disavowed. And now it's like too late, hot plate. It's part of the culture now.
yeah, no, I mean like I own merchandise. I own official merchandise with Wookiees with Life Day robes on.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the new things that they dropped on Life Day was a large scale Chewbacca talking action figure in his Life Day robe. Like that's one of the pieces of merch that came out in the parks that day, and you can order it on DisneyStore.com now.
it's so bizarre. Um, and I wonder if I mean, like, do you think there's any other? It's so hard to imagine any other part of the canon or the I say canon in a different respect than like the canon, but like in the history of Star Wars in general that had been so neglected and left so underground that could possibly make its way back the way the holiday special has been like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think of anything because I think part of why it made its way back is because it is so weird. And it is, I think there's probably a little bit of the fact that George did denounce and made people want it to be part of their Star Wars even more.
Hmm.
But I just love that that means that B. Arthur and Bruce Vilanch are involved in Star Wars now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing I can think of is like, so the Ewoks cartoon has had so many elements of it come back, and same with the Ewok Adventures.
Yeah,
We've got Princess Kneeso, we have the Gorax, we have, they even retconned the witch from the Ewok Adventure as a witch of Dathomir. Um, but and we have Teak now, like in the canon.
yeah,
Um, but the Droids TV series, there's elements like the Tig From family, and like that whole milieu with those adventures with R2 and 3PO. Maybe that might be the
yeah,
next
maybe. I
thing.
mean, and what is the name of the character? Oh, I'm blanking out. There's a character in the Droid series whose name sounds a lot like Kylo Ren.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like Kybo Ren.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but and there's certainly that style of art that's drawn in has appeared on some licensed merch.
Yeah, I mean they had a whole Kenner line uh
Yeah.
originally back then.
Yeah, and Loungefly did like a backpack that had that and Ewoks on it, I think. Like it's basically like the weird animation throwback that had some of that on it. But you're right. I mean, in terms of actually adopting like the plot points, any of the main story stuff, there hasn't been. But yeah, we love some Life Day. Love it.
Yeah. No, I think that might be interesting. Um yeah, I don't know. Anyway, do you want to talk about some of the things maybe in Star Wars you're thankful for? Do you have a list? Do you have some things?
Um, I always have a list because I'm thankful for Star Wars in a lot of different ways,
Hmm.
some of which are very gushy. So brace.
Well, why don't you start with one and then I'll go and then we'll just alternate.
So mine might be a little bit heady. They do include some of my favorite things, but also
Some of mine are a little heady too.
they're also the things that like have become part of my life because of Star Wars that aren't necessarily a thing in Star Wars, if that makes sense. Here's the thing I'm most thankful for regarding Star Wars, and it is not a thing in Star Wars, but it is related. Um, I feel like more than almost anything else I engaged with as a child, Star Wars sparked my imagination and set me down a path of wondering, like the classic thing that makes all storytellers storytellers, which is like going, yeah, but what if? And like for that, I am eternally grateful and thankful
Yeah.
because it makes me who I am. You know what I mean? Like, and some of that is like in a way of, exploring ideas and talking about things like, oh, we could tell this story, even in the way I talk about history, right? Like, I will do research on something and I'm like, okay, but what if we look at this aspect of this person's life and see how that really relates back? And like some of that is because I didn't I didn't have the language of how big the universe could be in terms of possibilities until I watched Star Wars. Um, and it gave me that thing of like, oh my gosh, there could always be more. And then what's great is that it built on itself in terms of as we grew up and got behind the scenes stuff and found out about like George Lucas making that first movie despite a million obstacles in his way both in terms of like the logistics of like the studio side and just like the day to day, holy crap, there was a storm in the desert and now we have to start all of this from scratch. Like it just made me think about the way you can use creativity to solve problems kind of in situ. Like you can't anticipate every bad thing that's going to happen, but if you stay creative, it will keep your mind agile enough to deal with problems when they come up. And I legit trace all of that back to Star Wars lighting that spark in me. So forever grateful.
So I mean, I've got something definitely on a similar wavelength where it's definitely like Star Wars sparked so much of that in me, um, watching it in the first place. But there were sort of two paths that Star Wars really forced me to understand and sort of help code who I am, sort of on a foundational level. And the first one is flipping channels on PBS, or flipping channels and finding Star Wars playing on PBS and going, oh, Star Wars is on, right? Like back when channels used to just get flipped because
Yeah.
there wasn't like an on demand sort of situation, right? I must have
Yeah.
been 13 or 14 back in the early 90s, and there wasn't things such as like DVR or streaming. And whatever was on a station was on. And there were like maybe 30 or 40 channels back then if you had cable, or a good cable package. And on PBS, there was the Trench Run playing, and it was just like, oh, Star Wars is on. That's just, you know, I'm going to stop on Star Wars.
Right.
And it was the PBS Power of Myth special with Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
And I remember being transfixed there for the next 6 hours, watching Joseph Campbell sitting and Bill Moyers sitting at Skywalker Ranch in the library, explaining comparative mythology, explaining the power of myth, essentially, and how all of religion and culture and symbolism and storytelling worked, and really unlocking the power of stories in our life. And that imprinted heavily on the foundation of like who I am as a person. And that is something that like I was forever grateful for. And it was just because George Lucas had been interested in it when he was exploring telling Star Wars the first time and creating a modern myth with Star Wars that resonated so deeply with me, even as a kid, in ways I didn't understand. And now, still doing this podcast for 700 plus releases, exploring all the different facets that Star Wars offers us, old and new. It's something that resonated with me on that sort of deep spiritual sort of level that Joseph Campbell was talking about in that special, and really became a foundational part of my understanding of the world. And then on the other track, sort of along those same lines that you were talking about in those behind the scenes documentaries, another one of those foundational parts in that creative sort of problem solving that you were talking about. You watch all of those documentaries about ILM trying to figure out the problems George Lucas was presenting in front of them. And, you know, whether it's, uh, you know, John Dykstra and, you know, Ken Ralston and the guy and Dennis Muren and the guys at the original trilogy, trying to figure out what that, Phil Tippett and Stuart Freeborn and those guys in the original trilogy, and George saying like, okay, we've got to do this, and them all looking at each other going like, well, we've never done anything like this before. Or the guys in the prequel trilogy looking around at each other like John Knoll and Rob Coleman and, you know, Ben Burt across both of them, or whoever that group of people happened to be.
Right.
them looking at each other going like, we don't know how to do this,
No
but
one does.
the movie comes out at this date and we're going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And understanding that film just like learning about filmmaking, learning about storytelling, and learning about, it's that sending me on these really interesting deep dives, not only into how Star Wars is made, but just film in general and how any storytelling is done, that you just have to work to make sure the shot works and that whatever creative solution you can come up with, it doesn't matter if you don't know how to do it now, as long as you can figure out how to do it by the day, that's what's going to work. And that sort of creative spirit and that work ethic, watching those folks across those behind the scenes documentaries from the youngest age I can remember watching them to, I was showing some to my kid like this week, really imprinted on me as a human being. And I feel like I approach all of my problem solving with that philosophy that nothing feels impossible. It might feel like a really tall mountain to climb, but I know that I'm going to figure out some way to get it done by the day, because that's just what you do. There's no other way around it. And Star Wars ultimately is really the driver that gave that to me.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm really, really thankful for because they modeled that behavior making models, right? Like,
Right. They
um,
modeled creativity resilience.
yeah,
We didn't know that's what we were getting, but it's what we all got.
yeah,
And it does become like a core part of your being at that point.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's exactly that's something that had I not had Star Wars and had I not been so into Star Wars as a kid, had I not been so interested in exploring behind the scenes because of it, had I not been so interested in storytelling because of the power of myth and things like that, had I not been so interested in exploring film and filmmaking because of the power of Star Wars and its behind the scenes, I don't think the I think that stuff would have bounced off me in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best way to order my little list here because there will be tears. Have to be careful. Uh, um, also, I have a cold, so I'm sorry. Sometimes I will sound like I'm on the verge of tears, and really I'm just congested.
You're just Holly, so it's like I always assume you might be on the verge of tears generally.
Right? I mean, lately for sure. As I get older, it gets worse and worse. I am gonna say here's what I'm very, very thankful for. And I'm almost trepidatious to list this one because it's a thing that I know I was very, very privileged to get to experience, which is Star Cruiser. And I was very privileged to get to go multiple times. But Star Cruiser because it ties into the first one for me. There was a an aspect of it for me that I have talked about. If you went to the parks panel in London, I talked about it a little bit there, and got choked up. But it was like a great for a jaded, you know, um for a jaded old hag like me. Now, I mean, I'm not in some ways, but in other ways I am. It was just a great reminder that the dreams that you had as a kid should not be abandoned.
Yeah.
Um, that like those things that you put away as impossible, like I said, it ties back exactly to what we were just talking about. Those things that you were like, well, that's never going to happen, but it's a fun idea. Then when you're thrust into a scenario where that thing that you thought could never happen happens, it breaks your brain in the best way. Like it just kind of jerks you uh, I want to say it jerks you back to reality, but the funny inversion there is that the reality it jerks you back to is remembering how important dreaming is, right? That you and like problem solving again in ways that you would never have anticipated. You have to address challenges that arise, and often you have to do that with people you don't know that are vital to the whole process that you have to collaborate with. And it just, it's one of those things. There's a reason that everybody that did Star Cruiser comes away feeling changed and intensely attached to it. And it's because it really appeals to all of those best parts of your psyche and reminds you about how play is good, remembering that childlike wonder can actually be an asset in a world where we're often told that like behaving in a childish way is wrong or incongruous with what needs to happen in the day to day. And so it's a like this wonderful burst of joy that's hard to really articulate. I mean, although I've tried many times and will continue to try, and so I'm very thankful for Star Cruiser. Also, Star Cruiser has given me an awful lot. You know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of friends that I know through Star Cruiser. I have gotten to do a lot of things because of connections that I've made through Star Cruiser, and I feel like it's the gift that has given far more than I could have ever given to it. So that's my second thing.
No, Star Cruiser was really an incredible magical experience. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Not just the experience of like getting to get married on the ship, but like just the whole thing. It was amazing, and I wish I could go again. Like I get sad thinking about not being able to have that experience again. I get mad about
Yeah.
it sometimes too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us do. Um, yeah, it was such a special and unique thing. This is the thing, this is the message I would love to convey to people because I know, and within the Star Cruiser community, there are a lot of people who are like, maybe it will come back one day. And I will say, I don't think that's likely. But that doesn't mean that like the spirit of it isn't going to get integrated into other things. You know what I mean? Like I really feel like that's one of those things that like we all know that, there the cancellation of Star Cruiser was because of some fiscal decisions where a write-off garnered more benefit than the margins they were getting in terms of profit, which just sucks. But I do think that every situation like that yields a lot of learning for the company and for the storytellers at Imagineering, and they can continue to integrate the key takeaways, like what they learned, what they understood about how literally just the dynamics and the nuts and bolts of a situation like that can do and how they can function, and those ideas get integrated into new things. Will those things be Star Wars all the time? No, probably not. Almost certainly not. But I just the spirit of it I think still lives on in ways that we haven't seen manifest yet. So if that gives anybody hope, I hope it does. But
Yeah.
it was kind of a dash of that sucky reality with also like, but
Yeah.
there are also dreams. We just don't know we're having them yet.
So the next one I'm grateful for, this one might veer into real life a little bit too much too. Um, I want to, I'm really thankful that Star Wars has given me a really good um, springboard into um, a useful moral compass. Um,
Yeah.
and that goes back not just from it enters a lot of aspects of my life, and I know it's silly. Like a lot of people will be like, you're basing your life around a movie, and that's not really what it is. Star Wars is a useful piece of art, which any good piece of art is something that helps you learn about yourself, the world, people, empathy for other people. If a piece of art, including a movie, isn't teaching you something or reinforcing a value or helping you understand or deconstruct a value, uh, what's the point,
Right.
right? And Star Wars through the years has, a lot of people will dismiss it as a kids movie or, a movie made for 9-year-olds, and it is. And that's what's so great about it, but it also has so many complicated levels of nuance. And every time it gets added to, whether that's through new movies, through cartoons, through new television series, through books, through comics, or whatever, there's new lenses through which we can see through it that add nuance and more understanding and more things to latch onto. And it's things that like have helped me relate to people around me, relate to the world. It's things that have helped me, raise my kids, right? Like the Anakin's journey was and still is a really helpful tool to like raise kids, right? Like being able to say like, is this a dark side choice or a light side choice is just as effective as other things. And it's something that kids understand and use the examples of that as a parenting tool, or things like Andor, Andor helping understand the world around us, or the prequels helping understand the world around us through allegory, through the lens of people who are incredibly intelligent, interpreting history through Star Wars and presenting it to us in a way that makes it more easily digestible, more easy for us to recognize these things when they're going on around us, and giving us a common language to speak about it, right? Like seeing the prequels and the downfall of democracy in Andor and the resistance to fascism, and then looking around us and seeing people use the vocabulary of Palpatine and the Empire and fascism at protests
Yeah.
and things like uh, you know you have friends, I have friends everywhere, things like that in places where there is direct action to combat fascism is really bolstering. It's something I am really thankful for, that Star Wars has given a common language to people fighting against the forces of evil in our world today. That Star Wars has given that to us in a way that things that it has to be at that scale of Star Wars. You can't do that with something that's sort of, you can't do that with a piece of pop culture mythology unless it's hit the zeitgeist in the way that Star Wars has.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the scale of Star Wars gives it a very unique power in that regard, right?
Yeah. And so that's something I'm very grateful for, that it has it has influenced a lot of those things in my life, but also given me that common language with people that, for the most part, share those common interests. That that gives me that common vocabulary, so that you know when I see somebody with a sign that says "I have friends everywhere" to protest, like I know something that inspired them, something that we have a common language for,
Yeah.
and things like that. It used to be when I was a teenager, right before the THX release of the original trilogy on VHS. If I saw someone with a Star Wars shirt or saw someone with anything Star Wars related in public, I knew that that was a person that I could speak to and we would speak the same language.
Yeah.
And it got a little bit more complicated later, especially after some of the division after the prequels, or especially after the sequel trilogy and sort of some of the um, division after that. But in the last year, after Andor and seeing how much it's been used as that rallying cry, um, it has been sort of that marker of we speak a common language and have much more in common than we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. What about you?
Me too. I'm gonna piggyback off of your I have friends everywhere in a more literal sense because thanks to Star Wars, I have friends everywhere. There are so many people that I met on Star Wars message boards when the prequels were coming out that have remained my friends to this day. My best friend is somebody that I met on the costuming forum at theforce.net. Um, and there are a lot of people from that forum in particular, the costuming forum, that, we have all stayed in touch over the years to various degrees, and we see each other at conventions all the time, and it feels like, you know, family almost, or like an old school fraternity or something. But there are also just so many people that I have met over the years where our primary bond has been Star Wars. And like I know that other interests bring people together as well, but I do feel like there's something unique about Star Wars creating an entire network of people that can become almost instant friends and with deep connections. And I think we're kind of every thankful thing we add kind of builds on the others, because part of it is that we have that shared language as well, right? Where we recognize each other, and it's not just, although it is super important in circumstances where, you're taking direct action against fascism, but also even in just the most casual moment, if you are at a company party, or if you are, you know, even in the grocery store at an event, and somebody says something offhand or like references one of the movies or the TV shows or whatever, and you see them, there's that great moment of like, did we just become best friends? And it's really, really fun. It's made my world so expansive and has made it so that, when I do travel a lot, which I do in almost any city, there's somebody I know that I met because of Star Wars, and that was the beginning of our friendship. And I can never express my level of gratitude enough for that, because those are people that have enriched my life. In some cases, they have really helped me when I needed a hand. In other cases, they've just taught me things about what it is to be human, to be, compassionate, to understand other people and the way different people live. Like, it's all so important to me, um having those connections with other people. And it also feels very much in the spirit of Star Wars that we would all know each other in that way. I mean, Star Cruiser is another way that I met a lot of people and know a lot of people now that I, consider extremely close friends. So, Star Wars makes friendships, man, and that just makes your life richer.
Yeah, no, I think most of my longest relationships um, of friends in my life are Star Wars based. Um, and I mean, honestly, Star Wars is how we became friends. I mean, like we had been talking about a history thing and had, seen Star Wars in each other's bio and we're like,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah.
And I think for like the next year, we were sending each other photos of our action figures high-fiving each other, like back
Yeah.
and forth.
Yeah.
Um, which is actually still hilarious to me when they pop up in my memories. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's when Holly and I were were getting to know each other the first time.
We just spent all of our time taking pictures of toys, which I
Yeah.
also did in Morocco because I can't not do it everywhere I go.
Oh no, I saw. I was very delighted by those.
Oh my gosh. That was like the last minute packing item of like, Brian, did you remember the Tusken Raiders? Yes, I remember the Are you sure? Are they in your carry-on? Because I don't want them to get lost.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I brought some Jar Jars to Japan even. Um, and when we went to Ireland, I brought Porgs. I think everybody
Yeah,
brought Porgs. I brought a bunch of toys to Ireland actually. I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie.
I brought my porg to Ireland. When we went to Iceland, we brought a bunch of action figures because we knew we were going to be in Vic where they filmed parts of Rogue One. So we had a lot of Rogue One figures there. And then it just seemed like we couldn't be in the Sahara Desert and not take pictures of the many action figures that have been in desert scenes. So we had to be judicious. We couldn't take all the ones, but
Yeah, I mean
we
you're
did.
traveling across the world,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun.
but no, I mean I met some of the most meaningful relationships I have in my life. Yeah, formed one of in fact, I can guarantee the oldest friend I have, um we met in junior high and we were writing partners for many years. We made films together. His kid was one of the two actors in the short film I've got on the festival circuit right now. He and I met in junior high because in art class he had sculpted, guess what, a bust of Greedo.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting outside the school after school one day
Holding this Greedo.
holding his Greedo and was like waiting for a ride to go home with his Greedo. And I was just like, hey, that's Greedo. And back then, if you knew the proper name of anything in Star Wars, it was like clearly you were in the club.
Yeah.
And we've been friends since, right? And that
I
was,
love it. I
geez,
love
that
it.
was probably 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Um, like that's just how that worked back then. Um, you know, that's just what Star Wars does.
Magic. That started as mine. So what's your next one?
Um, man, I don't know. Like there's just so much. I think, well, I mean, part of it is I think I'm really um Star Wars has really helped. I mean, it's sort of like piggybacking onto that because of that um and piggybacking onto that and back to something we talked about earlier, like Star Wars fostered that interest in storytelling and it fostered that interest in creative problem solving and it fostered that interest in like being able to connect with people through Star Wars. And like we joked before the show that like I'm in the midst of writing 3 books right now. And that's not a joke. I am literally in the midst of writing 3 books simultaneously right now, and I've got deadlines for all of them. And literally, the only reason I'm doing that is I can trace the reason I'm working on all 3 of these back to Star Wars. None of them are Star Wars books, but I can trace the reason in some way circuitously back to Star Wars or not. Like the reason I get to be a full-time writer is Star Wars, and I'm really thankful for that. Like one of them I'm working on is for a project that Mike Stackpole got me into, and I wouldn't know Mike Stackpole if who wrote the X-Wing books if it weren't for a friend who I met in line for Phantom Menace, who introduced us randomly at a Dragon Con. And she and I have been friends since we met in line for Phantom Menace. And actually, she's a friend of yours too, because you guys did costuming stuff and knew each other through that. And I think she's the one who suggested I look you up for my history stuff, to be honest. Um, and like, yeah, we had met because of just getting in line for Phantom Menace. And so because of Phantom Menace, she introduced me to Mike. Mike and I are great friends now, and Mike invited me to do this. And then the other one I'm working on is a Battletech novel, and I wouldn't be in Battletech had I not embarked on that journey to be a writer and met Mike through that circuitous route. And Mike hadn't recommended me for Battletech, which was a universe that he established in the 80s, which helped him get his Star Wars job. And this project I'm working on with Mike um, wouldn't happen without Star Wars. And then the third one is a horror thing on my own for my agent. Again, I wouldn't have an agent had all of this not rooted back into Star Wars and it teaching me about storytelling and getting me involved and interested in all that stuff. Like my everyday is influenced by Star Wars. And I wouldn't be at the point in my career had it not been for the ability to write about Star Wars when I was doing stuff on my own, like in the early days of Clone Wars, and then Lucasfilm literally reaching out and saying, "Hey, you're the only person on the internet writing about Clone Wars. Can we talk to you and send you stuff?" And then getting a chance to write for StarWars.com and then getting the chance to write for Star Wars Insider and then getting a chance to do all the stuff I do now. Like that getting slowly more involved in Star Wars from that direction and sort of becoming part of that family, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, uh, yeah, I wouldn't be where I'm at as a human being without Star Wars in the first place. And Star Wars is just central to my life in those ways. And so I'm really thankful for it in ways that like it's really hard to quantify because it does play such a big role in ways that it's hard to think about or actually track it back in those ways.
Yeah. I'm gonna do an easy one just so it's not all heady.
Okay.
I'm very thankful for Rhodians.
Well, we know that.
You know. And I had been wondering about this recently because it's kind of a chicken or the egg discussion in my head because I know I've told the story before of like why I loved Greedo so much was because it was the first time I had ever seen like two characters speaking different languages to each other but understanding each other perfectly, even if that understanding didn't go so well. Um, and like that was like it really like switched on my brain in a way, and it made me very excited. And I have always kind of craved the different and the new, and I don't know if I gravitated to that moment and to Greedo because it represented the different and the new, or if that moment made me so enthralled that it made my brain want to seek more of the different and the new. I don't know which one came first, but it is definitely tied together. Like I have the opposite of like people that want to hang out with people like themselves and do the same things all the time. I'm like the opposite. I'm like, what is that other guy doing? I don't know what his life is like. Can I find out what that's like? Can I hang out with him for a day? Um, so that is tied to it. Like the aliens of Star Wars feel very right to me. I think because I've always felt like slightly a weirdo. The places where the weirdos are normies are very fascinating.
Yeah. No, that is not surprising to me at all
Rhodians and
whatsoever.
Shadrafans and Ithorians
Oh my.
and Talses. I love them all so much.
Yeah. Just anything that was in the cantina originally.
Anything in the cantina. I really, really did just fixate on that damn cantina.
I know.
Like many people did, but whew, I'll never be done with it.
For me, it was really like Jabba's palace was more the place I was, and I think that makes sense because it was Return of the Jedi was the first one I saw,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like an age thing. That was where you first
and
hit on
Ewoks.
that kind of culture. Yeah.
Ewoks were the first thing I saw that were like, yeah, Ewoks and Jabba's palace, and so I had this weird little like this little model set I had to put together and paint, and I've been looking for another one just because, I was like 7 or 8 when I put this together and it just got scattered to the wind. And I've been looking for another one. I've never been able to find it, but I'll find one eventually. But yeah, it was just this little miniature. It was almost micro machine style scale, but like you put it together and it was just this huge diorama of Jabba's palace, and it had like all of his little creatures and all of his retinue and Luke and um yeah, it was just really cool. And you
And it was
painted them.
uh
Like
a
they were
thing that
all
you painted.
you painted it, yeah, and like all of the creatures and everything were like sort of in two pieces, so you had to like cut them off the sprues and snap them together.
Oh my goodness, how cool.
Yeah. I think it was like, I mean, it was like a model kit. It wasn't like a toy. Um, yeah, one day I'll find it again and I will bust it open and put it together and paint it for reals this time.
I feel like if you start trawling every possible dealer's room, eventually somebody's got one.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll come across one at some point, but it's one of those like sort of gray whales, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um, like I'm interested in it, but it's not, one day I'll get my hackles up and it'll become the white whale, but it's not at that point right now.
yeah, yeah. Oh, good stuff.
But we're way over time.
I have one more left. It's very squishy.
Go. Do it.
It's so squishy, I might cry. I'm gonna try not to. And I might have told this on the show before. I'm thankful for Carrie.
We okay. We all are.
Yeah.
But
But I
explain.
mean, um, for multiple reasons. One, I am getting weepy. In the 70s, there were not a lot of cool women kicking ass on screen. And then there was. And she changed it for all of us. And the secondary part, as I talk through my tears, is that while I was seeing her and getting completely inspired to just be the weird person I was and like try to be a badass like her, my beloved was seeing her and saying, what I want is a woman who is trying to be a badass like her and is completely herself. And that's why we are together today, and I love it. Squishy.
I don't have anything better to add to that. Um,
I actually caught Brian telling someone that when we were in Morocco, and we have talked about it before that that's like she became a touch point that we didn't know like formed the basis of why we were made for each other. But he was telling one of the people on the trip, and my heart swelled three sizes that day. But
yeah, no,
anyway.
that makes so much sense knowing the both of you.
Anyway, thank you, Star Wars. I'm very grateful for you, both at Thanksgiving time and all year round.
Um, yeah, no, Star Wars is great, and I'm definitely thankful for it. Not just year round, but just all the time, like around the clock.
Uh-huh.
Just in the very marrow of my bones. But where can people find you, Holly?
I'm on Instagram as SurlyGirly5, and I'm on Blue Sky as Holly Fry, although admittedly I'm not as active there all the time as I would like to be. Stuff you missed in history class, still trucking so many drops each week. And then I am still doing The Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd on the History Channel. That comes out on Friday nights. I think the Friday that just passed, I was definitely in that one, and I don't know about next week, but it's a fun show, so watch it whether I'm on that episode or not.
As far as I go, you can find me at swankmotron.com or on social media at swankmotron. Or you can just look up Brian Young and you can actually find me. If you just look up Brian Young Star Wars, you'll find me, or Brian Young Battletech, and you can find me. Um, I have a couple of really cool things that I'm super excited about. Um, if you're interested in Weird Tales magazine, I actually have a new short story in there. And so does Cavan Scott, actually, if you like his Star Wars stories. Cavan Scott and I both have a new story in the new Weird Tales magazine that you can pre-order right now. at weirdtales.com.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, I was really excited. That's like a list item for me. Weird Tales is where like Conan the Barbarian started and where
Yeah.
like Lovecraft started publishing the Cthulhu mythos um and then the other one that I'm really excited about is if you're into Kurt Vonnegut at all, the Vonnegut Museum and Library, their board puts out a literary journal every year, and I had a piece accepted to their literary journal this year, and the proceeds to the literary journal go directly to the museum, and they use the proceeds to like keep the museum up and do like literary programs, but also like fighting book banning and stuff like that. So you can go to
That
their
museum does so many great community programs.
yeah, yeah. It's such a terrific museum. I love going to that museum. I try to make it there at least once or twice a year. It's one of my favorite places. And getting a story in their literary journal with Kurt Vonnegut's name on it is another one of those bucket list items for me. So
Bravo, you.
those were two really cool things I've done recently. But yeah, so swankmatron.com for me. As far as Full of Sith goes, you can go to fullofsith.com and listen to the entire back catalog of episodes that we've got there. You can send us an email at holocron@fullofsith.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as ever, please rate and review the show wherever it is you listen to it. And I don't know, tell your friends about it or something. I think that's everything, right, Holly?
That seems exhaustive.
Yeah. So, for super producer Mike Pilot, for Holly Fry, I'm Brian Young, and the Force will be with you always.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.